National Fire Radio.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the National Fire Radio podcast. I am Jeremy, the host of the National Fire Radio channel. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first time listening to the podcast channel, welcome. If you've been here before, we appreciate your continued support and listening, and trust me, we do appreciate you being a part of the National Fire Radio community. This week, April 3rd, 2023 is an exciting time for us. April this year is a big month for us, and we're going to get into a few of those things as the weeks tick on this month. But right now, Tuesday, and going forward on every Tuesday, will be a brand new podcast called The Size Up by National Fire Radio. The Size Up is hosted by our friend Robert Pipero. We call him Pip. You know him. He's the little guy with the mohawk. He's a rock star. He's a dear friend of ours, and he's bringing forth something new. So how about this? Give a listen to what The Size Up is all about.
The Size Up by National Fire Radio is a lifestyle podcast hosted by Robert Pip Pipero. Pip has been involved in the emergency services for close to 30 years, and over that time, he's learned how much your lifestyle off the job can correlate directly to your ability to do the job. Episodes of The Size Up by National Fire Radio will focus on just that. Those different factors that you can control so you're prepared when the time comes that you aren't in control. Pip's guests will come from a variety of fields and have an expertise on topics not normally dove into on the National Fire Radio platform. So sit back, relax, throw in your earbuds, and ask yourself, what's my personal size up?
I love it, Lily. Thank you for that. What a great intro into what The Size Up is all about. Launching April 4th, Pip throws it out there with his first guest on The Size Up, and that is me. I am his first guest. It's going to be a killer discussion. We've already recorded it, and I know for a fact it's going to bring tremendous value. So I'm looking forward to The Size Up. That's going to be once a week, every Tuesday. The Size Up will be on the National Fire Radio channel. Check him out over on social media as well, The Size Up, as well as thanks for tuning in. And the only way we can do this, the only way we can push this job forward together is if we get the partners involved. And the partners are our sponsors. So do me a favor, sit back and give a listen to some of the sponsors who allow us to do what we do. Our first sponsor of the podcast, Taylor's Tins. Taylor and his crew from Taylor's Tins have been manufacturing metal helmet fronts since 2017. With over 200,000 metal fronts in the market, they are a leader in the metal helmet front space. Their creativity as well as customer service sets them apart from the competition. They are manufacturing one-offs within 24 to 48 hours to ship to your door. Not only that, but head over to taylorstins.com and you'll see all the other products that they offer. Right now on their homepage, they have a whole page dedicated to vintage metal prints. It's so cool to see the original prints of the fire apparatus, fire hydrants, fire helmets, fire boots, flashlights. It's so cool. They are printed metal tins that hang on the wall that are aged and look to be from the original days of when these prints were drawn, looking for copyright and trademarks. It's really cool. Taylor and his crew are super creative. They're always pushing the envelope as to what products they offer to the fire service. Check them out at www.taylorstins.com. That's again, taylorstins.com to get a hold of Taylor and his crew. And in the words of Taylor, stop burning up leather. This episode's brought to you by the 2448 podcast. If you're a first responder with an entrepreneurial streak, check out the 2448 podcast. Hosted by Sam Massa, who built lighting company High-Vis LEDs. During his off time, he serves as a volunteer firefighter and professional EMT. Each week, we tell the stories of different first responder-owned businesses, from small startups to food trucks to companies like National Fire Radio and Fire Department Coffee. Available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Go to the2448.com for more information. That's www.the2448.com for more information about this killer podcast. And if you're coming to FDIC this year, join us in booth 13073, right by the entrance in the main hallway where National Fire Radio, yes, us, in conjunction with the 2448 podcast, will be teamed up for live shows throughout the duration of FDIC. It's going to be a killer week out in Indy. Join us at booth 13073 right in the main hallway where you come right into the convention center. We're going to be right there live broadcasting throughout the week. Come see us. Guys, thanks for checking it out. Check out the 2448 podcast. And now, without further ado, the daily episode. Hey, everybody. Jeremy, National Fire Radio. We're back on the podcast today. Today's going to be a very special episode. I am very much looking forward to talking with my guest today about the foundation that he now runs, as well as his career and everything that led up to where he is today in his life. I'm talking with today retired Captain Bill Lavin out of the Elizabeth, New Jersey Fire Department. Bill, thanks for joining me, brother.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jeremy. It's a pleasure.
Well, yeah, and so truth be told, I know nothing about you other than the last 5-10 minute conversation we had prior to leading up to this podcast, but I do know and had the ability to meet you through a mutual acquaintance, and if it comes from him, then you know what? Let's go. It's that easy. And, that's the beautiful thing about the fire service. When you have trusted people and they recommend or talk about somebody or they say, hey, this is a good friend of mine, you should meet him. I mean, that's a solid win for all of us, no?
Yeah, absolutely. My buddies from Boston, absolutely. They're great folks and have done a lot of work with me. And, we bust each other about being from Yankee country or Bruin country or Red Sox, and it's all good.
Red Sox, Yankees, I get it. It's just the fact of life in the Northeast. Well, let's break this down real quick. So, retired in 2014. After 26 years, you retired as a captain with Elizabeth, New Jersey Fire Department. Elizabeth is right across the river from Lower Manhattan, if you will, right? Staten Island area, like in between.
Yeah, right across.
Yep. So it's a busy urban center department, if you will. Before, during your career, 11 years as your local union rep for Elizabeth, 16 years you decided to take it further. 16 years you were the state president of the New Jersey FMBA, which is the union and local for 5,500 members strong, and you sat at the helm of that for 16 years. So you were very much involved in protecting our brothers and sisters, protecting the integrity of the job, and being in love with the job. Talk to me a little bit about how that all came to be.
Yeah. So I came on a little older. I was 30 years old. My dad was a firefighter. I have two brothers that are on the job. I'm from a big family, civil service. I have a brother that's a police officer. So I came on and looking forward to a nice, long career, uneventful. And then 9 months later, I was laid off.
Wow.
In a political situation there where, for 3.5 months, you didn't know whether you were coming back. So got very interested in what the future held for me, whether I was going to be coming back or what my local reps were doing to, keep us on the job.
Sure.
And being vocal, the next thing I know, I got elected to the president's job there, and everything from there just kind of went forward. And being a little bit older, coming on, it wasn't like, I didn't have a few life experiences. So I got involved, and it was out of, necessity. And then, really enjoyed going to the state meetings and interacting with other guys. And next thing I know, at a fairly young age, I was involved on the state level and dealing with, legislators and, mayors throughout the state and governors.
Yeah.
And it went from there.
Well, that was the time, too, back, I know it was late 80s when you were laid off, and then the early 90s. There was a lot of turmoil with municipalities, government, right, unions, so I'm sure your hands were full along the way.
Yeah, there was, there was things, dealing with the pension and having the municipalities contribute to it, and pension holidays, and somehow along the line, eventually, not to get into any names, but one particular governor thought to make the enemy, civil servants, police,
right,
fire, teachers. And so I, took it head on, took it very personal, way too personal. And, got mired in this, this battle for what I was, good versus evil, staffing and pensions and health benefits and all that. And in the mix there was 9/11. And then after 9/11 happened, and the singular moment in my career, being right across the river, we lost so many good brothers and from FDNY, we started to try to support them, and that takes its emotional toll on me. So, over time, I was getting, frustrated with the politics and just the rigors of the job.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, that makes perfect sense for sure. I know, though, you said to me earlier, you said a lot of what you looked forward to was getting back to the firehouse, though, right? Through all your duties as union president, as while you're out there playing that political machine and battling with government and making agreements and deals and so on for the protection of your own. Your solace was back at the firehouse, right?
Exactly. We had the option of not, having a full release from doing fire duty. But as a younger guy getting involved, I thought, number one, geez, I came on the job to be a firefighter.
Yeah.
And I also thought, listen, if I'm going to be arguing and debating how the job should be done, I should be doing the job, right?
Yeah, right.
So I chose to continue to do my shifts. And let me tell you something, it was my oasis. So I used to joke that it was safer in the firehouse than being with, some of the folks in the State House, where, we had some special names, but
yeah, right.
I won't go into that, but it was my place to be with the guys, whether we're, cooking meals and, they were my support team or training or going to work, going to fires. And I looked forward to that, that shift. And I used to tell people, hey, tell them, look, I'm unavailable. And it gave me the break. And it really grounded me to be able to represent them the best possible way I could.
Yeah. That's strong. I mean, and that's what you got to be. I mean, that's like a good chief. A good chief is still in the trenches with his men and women to know what they need, what they want, and so on. And when you have that disconnect, how can you fight for what's needed if you're not there yourself? So it's admirable, brother. I get that completely. How was retirement for you? Was that hard for you? 26 years to walk away?
Well, a little bit. I miss, I certainly miss the guys, but I had, and we'll get into the Where Angels Play. I had something that was pulling me in a different direction. And that is Where Angels Play. I found my calling. My initial thought was at one time, okay, well, firefighting is what I'm meant to do, or why I was born to do. And then, okay, well, maybe it was the union, and that's what my calling was. And then I realized that all of that was preparing me to do this really blessed foundation, which is Where Angels Play.
Yeah. And, so let's talk about this, because this is certainly something that has consumed you as a person and who you are and what you do in life. You're giving back after the retirement out of Elizabeth and all your service to the firefighters in the state of New Jersey and the guys and girls in Elizabeth Fire Department. You're now running, and you have founded, and now you run a foundation, Where Angels Play Foundation, which is building playgrounds in memory of those through tragedy, correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So give me a little background. Where did it come from, Bill? Like, give me the backstory as to Where Angels Play began in your world, and then we'll take it forward.
Well, it goes back to when we mentioned 9/11. It's being really, the singular moment where we were all trying to respond. I mean, I actually took up the bagpipes at one time because we were asked that the FDNY guys' bagpipe team was getting so burnt out. They were going to so many funerals. It was so sad and tragic that, we had groups that were, learning how to do the bagpipes so we could fill in and help out in that regard. It was a horrible time. It was a horrible time for the country. And, we were trying to figure our way through. So during that difficult time, we got cards and letters from a little third grade class in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. And that was because their teacher was the niece of one of our fire captains. So we hung them on the wall. We didn't think a ton about it. It cheered us up, but, we had to go back to doing our work. Now, 4 years later, after that, we're watching the news, and Hurricane Katrina devastates the Gulf Coast, right? And hits Mississippi really hard. And we were wondering how these children made out that had reached out to us and how their families were.
Yeah.
And we did a little research and found out that there's many had lost parents and their school was completely destroyed. So our group at the time, I was involved with I was the president of the FMBA, and our group, with our large membership, we were able to raise about $400,000 and
Wow.
partnered with with a team called Save the Children.
Yeah.
And sent that to them, and they do great work with kids. And then we were invited down to tour the area, and this is where the playgrounds start, because when we met with the teachers of the school of North Bay Elementary School, which, by the way, had been leveled, and they were going to school in tents and using porta johns for bathrooms. We said, geez, what do you need? This was 6 months after the storm, by the way.
Yeah.
And we said, what do you need? And then they said, well, the kids have no place to play. While their moms and dads were fighting with FEMA and insurance companies, the kids got to be kids. They need a place to play. They just need some normalcy. So we came down the first time with 20, the second time with 40 guys, and built 3 of the first handicap accessible playgrounds in the history of that state.
Wow.
And we're very proud of it. It was very cathartic. The kids sang to us, and it was a cool moment. Now we go back from that wonderful moment, and again, now after 9/11, the economy really turned, and there were layoffs, and we're battling with the government, local government, state governments, and I started to become really jaded and feeling sorry for myself and things, that typical banging on the table labor guy.
Right.
And then Hurricane Sandy hits New Jersey and
Right.
New York and does a job, right? So now we're trying to recover. We're sending people, our members were adopting shore communities, trying to rebuild, and that was taking its toll. So again, I'm at the lowest, or at least I thought. Now, a couple things you should know: I'm one of 11 children. I have great family, brothers and sisters. I had great parents. I have a great wife, great kids. Now, great grandchildren, and I had a beautiful life, but I was miserable because I was taking everything personal.
Yeah.
I was not, I didn't know I had a beautiful life, right? So on December 14th, 2012, the tragedy of Sandy Hook, where these little beautiful lives were taken in a shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown. And I could remember being embarrassed and feeling like, oh my God, this is a problem. Like, I've never had a problem as compared to what is going on here.
Yeah.
And at that point, I thought to myself, what could we possibly do to make a difference for these families? And I got my answer 3 days later. There was a video of the kids from Mississippi. They weren't talking about Newtown yet, because this was a video that was a few days old.
Yeah.
And it basically said, hey, we remember the playground you built us, but now we heard you have your hurricane. And so those kids decided, that whole community, to collect Christmas gifts.
Wow.
And send them to kids in New Jersey as a pay it forward.
Sure.
So now we're paying it forward. So when I saw that video, I thought to myself, maybe I got to get back to building playgrounds. So the idea, which wasn't completely formed, I thought, what if we built a playground for each one of the children and the teachers from Sandy Hook, and celebrate how they lived, versus everybody was focused on guns and violence.
Yep.
But we wanted to celebrate the children, their favorite color, their favorite sport, their favorite cartoon character, and bring and it worked. And that's how it began. We reached out to the families, and not 1 or 10 or 15, but all 26 of those beautiful families trusted us enough to build a playground to honor and celebrate the life of their angel. And that's where Angels Play was born.
I'm sitting here listening to all this, and it's amazing how through your own journey, right? I have it written down, take it personal. You had said that several times now. And I think that stems very early on in your firefighting career, that, when you got laid off, you took it personally. And then that's why you got involved with the unions, to protect the fire department. And then to take it forward after retirement, you took it personal again. You're watching tragedy unfold. and you're a doer, right? And so it was like, how do I affect change? How can I make this better, right? You had a good life, you have a good family, you know, and all of that. And I think so many of us feel that, but the fact that you acted is powerful. And if you look at what you've been able to do with that, from building a playground for the Hurricane Katrina, you know, kids who don't know anything different, right? They live through tragedy and and the teachers who are teaching in tents and porta-johns and all that stuff, but they still want normalcy for their kids in a playground. And you stepped in to be able to do that. And then for them to pay that forward, brother, that is huge.
Well, let me say this, and you know, this isn't false humility or anything, but this is the most selfish project that I've ever been involved with.
I get that. Talk about that.
You know,
I get it.
Yeah, and anybody who works with us, you know, people, we don't even know why the families thank us, because we get far more out of it, like than we ever give. I mean, it's a joy. It's a pleasure to, first of all, you know how you go to the firehouse and, you know, guys get together, and if you get a job, it brings everybody together and you're working as a team. And so these playgrounds who are built, you know, primarily by a lot of retired and active firefighters. It gives us, for the retired guys especially, a chance to be with their brothers or sisters and work on a project that, you know, is for the greater good. It's like a firehouse without the fires.
Yeah.
Like you get to bust each other's chops, you know, you get to kid with people, but you get to work as a team. And at the end of the day, when it's finished and the kids run onto the surface and you watch the family shed tears of joy, it's a rush, you know. It's like each one is like a Super Bowl win, you know, and you feel wonderful. Like today, we cut the ribbon on number 60 in Hamilton, New Jersey last night.
Congratulations. Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. But you know, then you have an emotional hangover. You're like, okay, when can I do the next one? So it's really like when and I mean this in the best way, that it's a selfish project. It makes, like, it's rewarding beyond, you know, it's cathartic.
I get it.
Like I said,
I get it.
You know, when my mom said, throw your problems in a pile with everyone else's and fight to get your back. You're standing next to a family that lost a little boy and is trying to make and raise their kids and keep his legacy alive. And we're giving them a place to go on his birthday, on a special day. And there's nothing, you know, this simple thing about, you learn when you're in kindergarten, it's better to give than to receive.
Yeah, man,
this is that on steroids.
Yeah,
because it is. If you're focused on doing this, I don't have time to, well, I still complain, and, you know, don't get me wrong, but you don't have a ton of time to think about how bad your life is if you're trying to, you know, lift somebody else up. And if you get down, the guy next to you with the, you know, trying to help you put a deck on or put a roof on one of these things, it's one of the coolest things. And I get to give this interview with you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
But I stand on the shoulders, you know, my daughter and wife who helped me run it, and all the volunteers that actually do the
100%.
You know, I do some work, but I shouldn't get any credit for all the ton of work that these guys do. But I'm thrilled to speak about it and tell the story, you know?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? And we were chatting about this before we hit the record button, and it should be said that, you know, through all of this, right, it is a selfish endeavor for yourself, but it's done in a way that is, you know, let me back up. You made a mention earlier about, you know, we were talking about the struggles of the fireground, and when you put somebody in an ambulance after making a grab or helping somebody on a fire scene, you put them in an ambulance and they leave. That's the end of it. You don't see what happens after the fact, right? You know that you did the very best you could, but you don't get to see the after effect of what you did on the fire scene, right? Whereas this, you are responding to tragedy, and you're able to put together a plan, implement that plan, execute on it, and you get to see the return. And that return is so incredibly powerful, right? I mean, some of these families, they have gone through unspeakable tragedy that they couldn't fathom that morning they woke up, that anything like that could happen in their world, and their world comes crashing down. And to have an organization that's there to help them get back a little piece of normalcy, or a little piece of you know, support or condolence, it just goes a very, very long way. It's super powerful.
Yeah, there's no question. And I'll be honest with you. When we started this, it was an idea. Maybe it would be helpful. This was something that, I was going to be able to process, my guilt or my grief or my, whatever. And I think it was after playground number 4, and it was for Dylan Hockley. Dylan was a little autistic guy that was killed in the Sandy Hook shooting. And his dad, Ian, who Ian actually helped me connect with a lot of the other families, and was the reason why we were able to move this thing forward. Great guy. And he, 6 months after we built the playground for Dylan, he texted me and said, "Hey, today is Dylan's birthday."
Wow.
And I didn't know whether to go to church or to go to the graveyard or what to do. Instead, I went to his playground, and when I got there were 30 children laughing, playing, joyful sounds. He said, I felt Dylan there, and I felt the fact that he was responsible for this. And it gave me, he said, thanks for giving me a place of joy to go on my son's birthday. And that's a thing. Think about that. Where do you go on a day, an anniversary or an angelversary, a day that your child unfortunately left this earth? And what do you do on that day? And here's somebody who chose to go and watch other kids play, and it gave them some peace. And that little thing, then we said, whoa, maybe we're really onto something here. Maybe this is, I'm not smart enough to come up with this, the way this thing evolved. It really came together, and we watched and we added some things, and, it's become our life. It's become a really cool thing. If I could tell you, and we all know, like you mentioned earlier, we're losing guys to depression and suicide, and they're not taking care of themselves to the job, and the country is divided, right? It's a difficult time.
Sure is.
So we had to wait for COVID, but one of our projects, which I thought was, if the nation could see, if the news could focus on something like this. So in the middle of Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter, and the left and the right, and the country is almost like breaking at the seams with civil unrest, we built a playground for DJ Simmons. DJ Simmons was a police officer who gave his life in the wake of the Boston Marathon, and he died from his injuries. He happened to be a Black police officer. So we're in a community, Randolph, Massachusetts,
right.
Very diverse community. We had recruits, about 100, come from Boston to Randolph. That was his hometown. And some Black, some white, some Asian, some male, some female, some Hispanic, and in a joyful working together in the height of all this
turmoil,
nonsense, for lack of a better word, and unrest. And we were able to. It was a commercial for what we can do, as a society, and have everybody come together, because, we didn't take a stand on any of the political things that you argue about at the local gin mill, right? We stayed away from that. We focused on the legacy of a young man or a young child or a person that we wanted to celebrate, and it lifted us all up.
This episode's brought to you by Fast Rescue Solutions. Fast Rescue Solutions was created with the mission to develop products and training that surpass currently accepted industry standards and that meet the operational challenges of the real world. Their vision is, always has been, and always will be to revolutionize rescue and save lives. Fulfilling both the mission and the vision, the Fastboard is a disruptive technology in rescue. Invented by 28-year Philadelphia firefighter Eric Allen, with over 20 years in the Philadelphia Fire Department Special Operations Command. He is a game changer. His crew is game-changing victim and firefighter rescue and survival. The national average time for rescuing a downed firefighter is 15 to 20 minutes using 5 or more people. The Fastboard has the ability to reduce that time to 5 minutes or less using only 2 or 3 members. That is 500 times faster than the national average. Originally designed to get down firefighters out of a basement, the Fastboard has been proven effective in nearly every rescue scenario: RIT, confined space, trench, ice and water rescue, hazmat, mass casualty, and the list goes on and on. Its simplicity and versatility make it a game changer. For a virtual demo or more information, visit their website at www.fastrescuesolutions.com and tell the crew you heard about them on the National Fire Radio channel. Eric and his crew at Fast Rescue Solutions have become dear friends of ours, and we appreciate the support. Check them out. Yeah.
So
it goes right in line with
pretty simple.
Yeah, it goes right in line with what the theme is today: triumph over tragedy. Right?
Yeah.
You can bring, over tragedy is when we can bring people together and do something about something, right? And that is what matters. And it takes somebody to be that catalyst. It takes somebody or an organization that recognizes that. And we turn a blind eye to everything else. We turn everything else off and put our focus on what the mission is at hand. And if that's supporting a fallen police officer or, fallen children that fell victim to, circumstance. I mean, these are things that you're doing. It's incredible. Talk to me a little bit about, there's a word that I wrote down on my notepad that is very powerful. I underlined it a couple times, circled it: trust. There's tremendous amount of trust that has to be instilled into you and your organization. These a lot of times are parents that are allowing you to represent and recognize their tragedies, right? Their sorrow.
Yeah.
And so talk to me a little bit about how powerful that word is for you.
Yeah, that is really central to what we do. So imagine in all cases, I'm a complete stranger, and you connect with somebody, puts us in touch with a family that has lost a child. And I say to them that, listen, we would, at no cost to you, and we're going to handle everything, and it's going to be your project, and you're going to be in control, and you need to trust us that we're going to do this in a respectful, appropriate manner that doesn't exploit the tragedy. In the case of Sandy Hook, you're going to be in control, and we're going to make a beautiful project here, and we've seen it work. And so they, I think they look at us and, okay, you're going to do what? And you're going to raise the money, and you're going to figure this out. And they think, okay, well, what's in it for you? What's the trick here?
What's the angle? Yeah.
What's the angle? And so we under promise, over deliver.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, these families, and if I could just say something about the families, that
Please.
these are the in every case, I don't know why everybody struggles this when you talk about God, and why do bad things happen to good people? Like, why do these tragedies have to happen? Why do little kids have to leave us in this manner? And I don't know the answer to that, but one of the byproducts of it, and I thought, well, maybe part of it is that we get to witness the grace and strength. You talk about strength and bravery and courage with the fire service, right?
Yeah.
But you talk about families who get up every morning and put one foot in front of the other and find a way to continue to either raise their surviving children in the wake of a tragedy, and be graceful and strong and inspire others. And in most cases, because they'll tell me, well, we have two options. One, I could crawl up in a ball, be mad at the world, and never function ever again. Or I can take my tragedy and I can do something with the legacy of my child, and either make a program to help kids social emotional learning and choose love, to have a triathlon program where kids learn how to be athletes.
Sure.
Or to help rescue animals. There's so many beautiful foundations, and that's, it's just the beauty of that. And those families are just so remarkable. So again, the lesson to us is, geez, if these folks can do that with what they've had to deal with, how much easier or how much better could I potentially handle things?
Yeah, 100%.
If I haven't had that. And listen, let's be clear. Nobody wants to walk the journey that these families have. But those that have, boy, they inspire us incredibly.
Perspective, right? I mean, we get wrapped up in our everyday, and it's so easy to go down those rabbit holes and complain about our daily journeys, our daily struggles, all these things. And then, all of a sudden you become exposed to people that have true tragedy and really game-changing, life-changing situations that happen to them, and it puts it back in perspective, right? I mean,
I think that's probably you hit the nail on the head there, Jeremy. That word is probably the greatest gift that we receive. When I said this is selfish, we get perspective.
Yes.
When I think I can't handle anything, or geez, I'm worried about my bills being paid, or some just innocuous little problem that I have. It gives us perspective.
Oh, 100%.
We one of the projects we I don't know if we talked about this on air, but we went to Pine Ridge, South Dakota,
right?
And we built on an Indian reservation. Now, Pine Ridge is the poorest county in the United States of America.
Is that
it's
right?
Poorer in some, and then some third world countries. It's really, really very sad. And you talk about perspective and trust. I mean, we went there, and as the white man promised to deliver a playground, and they looked at us at first like, okay, here's another, they have every right to not be trustful of the way they have been treated over the years. But to put a playground in and put it near Wounded Knee and do it on the day where we're honoring our brothers and sisters from 9/11. It was so powerful. Talk about a gift to ourselves. And they, it was a wonderful experience. And you come away with that, and you think, there's a snowstorm, and geez, I wonder how those folks in South Dakota are making out. And there's things that have spun off from that. People have done coat drives for them. We went to Africa to build a playground, and we're able to bring a young man who's a Rwandan genocide survivor, and he is flourishing in Portland, Maine, because of the generosity of some Boston firefighters and their families.
Wow.
And it's just on and on and on. It could spin off, but one good deed begets another, and you watch people be inspired. We're inspired by the families. There may be somebody on the other end of this radio who will hear that and say, hey, maybe I could do something that's going to make a difference. And I'll tell you, it feels a ton better than sitting around watching cable news and being angry at the world.
I just literally had this conversation last night with a buddy of mine. This is one of those friends I don't see for a couple months, and then all of a sudden we see each other and we pick right up and so on. And he's one of my favorite people. And we had an incredible conversation last night. And I said, we were talking about National Fire Radio. We were talking about his career. And I said, man, I have really changed over the last few years because I have incredible perspective now about the world, in the world of firefighting, right? Because I talk to people all over the country. And when you grow up in a certain slice, you get so accustomed to that way of things, you become closed-minded as to what else is out there. And with me now, I have this unbelievable ability to see what's happening out there, and I have become a much better person for it, and it translates into my everyday. I mean, every time I get gas now, I literally give $2-3 to the guy pumping my gas. It's New Jersey. Somebody pumps our gas. We don't pump our own in New Jersey, but I always give the guy a tip, and I go, hey, man, get a cup of coffee or something. It's $2-3, but you know what? I might need that, but I don't need it as bad as maybe that guy does. And I've gotten to that point, and I think, if anybody could take anything away from the conversation that you and I are having, you're doing something on a grand scale, and it's so powerful because a great give back like you're doing is paying it forward, and the next guy's going to pay it forward. But man, just a simple hello, a handshake, a smile at somebody, a couple bucks when they're pumping your gas, those little things go a very, very long way. And if anybody gets anything out of this conversation today, start there. Start there.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, early on, there was a group that did like 26 acts of kindness in honor of the 26 from Sandy
Incredible.
Hook. And,
yeah,
just a simple idea like that. And, it's been a blessing for us. It really has. Like I said, we enjoy what we're doing. It's changed us. We enjoy it. The families that we're able to advocate for, they become our brothers and sisters, our sons and daughters, our family. We know them by name.
Well, I think what's really powerful, too, not just for yourself and all the volunteers that help you along the way and the foundation, but even the families of the victims, right? When you talk about legacy, what you're able to do, right? I mean, legacy is so important to me, right? Like, I always want to leave it better than I found it, regardless of what it is. And in my life, I hope when my life is long over, people can look back and say, well, he made he tried to make a difference. He did something. He made an effort. It wasn't just about him. It was about something bigger. Like, that's legacy, right? What you're doing, you're providing the ability for these families, like you said, on that little boy's birthday, his father was able to go back to the playground and sit there and watch other kids enjoy something in memory of his son. Like, super powerful. But you and your foundation, Where Angels Play, are building and leaving legacy for those families and the foundation, man. It's huge.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're don't get me wrong, we all have egos, and I'm so proud of the what they call themselves, the Angels Army, right? The folks who build these things and Where Angels Play. And I can't really take too much credit for it, because it's kind of, something that evolved, and
Sure.
It's a, it's a bless. People will thank us, and I get like, oh, well, hey, we're blessed to do it. And here's the thing. You mentioned this, legacies, right? So what do you want to be known for?
That's right.
At the end of the day, when you're gone? Is it, hey, you negotiated a contract, or you got the 24-hour shift, or, what, he was a laborer. What do you want to be known for?
Yeah.
And I think just to try to, bring a little bit recovery, hope, and joy to folks who needed it the most, and that hopefully 50, 100 years after we're gone, there's still, listen, the other thing too is we hope we go out of business. I hope that these tragic things where we lose children, and we never want to build another playground for a child that has left us too soon. And occasionally I'll get somebody will make a flip remark when there's a tragedy in Tennessee, and somebody will say, oh, I guess you're not done building playgrounds. And I don't want anybody to think that, hey, we're slapping a playground on a horrific tragedy, and that makes everything all better. In fact, one of the moms said to me, I thought this was pretty profound. She said, there's really, because I would worry about what I said, and if I was going to upset them, and how we were going. She said, listen, the worst possible thing has already happened to us. You're not going to make that any worse. She said, and to be honest with you, I don't know that building a playground is going to help in any way. She said, but the fact that there are complete strangers who will try the impossible to make things better. She says, that's the fact that you'll try to do the impossible, and you're complete strangers, makes me get up in the morning and believe that there's more good than evil in the world.
Well, you said it. Yeah, go ahead.
That's, what better thing could they say to you than that we're the reason that in some cases they can continue to believe that there's still good people out there, complete strangers that'll help. And I think there's more good than bad in people if they just, one mom told me, and I love this quote, she says, there's only two kinds of people in the world. There's good people and good people in training, because sometimes they just haven't reached it yet.
I love that.
I thought, wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, let's break it down a little bit then, right? The psychology of it all, because a lot of times people that are affected by tragedy like this, their inner circle tends to walk away from them, right? They lose friendships because people don't know how to have the hard conversations, or they're afraid. Like you said, I'm afraid I watch every word that I say in the beginning because I was worried about how it's perceived and if I say something wrong and all these things. And a lot of people, the regular public, don't know how to deal with tragedy. Not that we do, not that firefighters or first responders do, but we deal with it a lot more. And so we kind of have this second sense about it, if you will, where we're kind of just a little more comfortable in a situation like that because we deal with it more regularly than the average citizen. And when a family suffers tragedy like that, a lot of their base around them kind of fades away a little bit because they're afraid, or they don't know how to have those conversations, or they withdraw from it. And when you come in with your group, you guys, like firefighters, and we talked about this, you guys run towards the tragedy. We run in, we charge in, and we're not afraid of those difficult decisions, and we're not afraid to talk with the victims and the families that are suffering. And then we do everything we can to try to make it better.
Yeah, I think that, that has a lot of merit, and I'm not the psychology of it, but I did have a family say to me that, they either, a close friend had a child that was of the same age of the little boy that they had lost, and it became uncomfortable to have that little guy be around.
Yeah.
And uncomfortable for them. So over time, they saw them less and less, and eventually, they said, "Hey, listen, my Rolodex has changed. My friends, in some cases, and family members, where it became awkward, and
Yes.
they just didn't know what to say, so they said nothing and stayed away." And then they kind of answered their own question. They said, "Well, and you guys, you reach out, you come to us and address this and take it on, as sad and as difficult it might be." And they said, "Well, maybe that's because you guys are always running towards the problem, and
Yeah.
you're kind of built that way." And I don't know that is what it is, but it kind of made a little bit of sense that not that we enjoy being around tragic circumstances, but many of us are trained critical incident stress debriefers, and we don't know the right thing to say, but sometimes the right thing to say is nothing at all, but just to be able to be there.
That's right.
And kind of navigate through the difficult times. And these are, when I give a presentation or I make a talk about where angels play and what we do, it's born out of tragedy. We talk about 9/11, and we talk about Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Sandy and the elementary school shooting. And people are, this is tragic. But if they stick around for the triumph and the fact that, hey, these folks are still here, and they're still, they're making a difference. There are kids across the country, across the world, that are learning how to cope, how to choose love, because one of the moms, Scarlett Lewis, has chosen to, honor her son and try to break the cycle of violence. And
Yeah.
there's a widow who lost her husband to her husband was a police officer. We're going to be building his playground in Stanley, Virginia, and she is tutoring juvenile incarcerated young men to get their GED so she could break the cycle. So
Yeah.
where does that strength come from? I can only think it comes from their angel.
It's powerful, huh? It's so powerful,
Yeah.
Wow. Resiliency. I mean, that's really what this is too, right? And man, just a couple words we could throw at this conversation, and they're just so powerful and impactful. Talk to me a little bit. Last night, we had to reschedule this podcast because we were supposed to chat yesterday, and then things got a little crazy, and so we rescheduled. Last night you couldn't do it because you had a ribbon cutting. Talk to me about the ribbon cutting ceremonies. When the construction is done, the planning, the conversations, the construction, and then boom, it's done. And now it's like the ribbon cutting where you can hear the laughter and the kids just charge onto the playground. I mean, talk to me about that.
Yeah, that's the moment, where it all comes together. And, we had one guy say, listen, it's not a playground until kids are playing on it.
Yeah,
And,
I love that.
there's, so there's a lot of thank yous to be made, and speeches, and get the family to express, and through many tears, and music that is associated with, the young child. And it really, it's special. And listen, not every, to talk about spirituality, not everybody believes in angels, and I get it, but we joke that, hey, there's enough of us to believe enough for the rest of us. But we were expecting like 100% chance of rain, and almost in every situation, the clouds part.
Love it.
And we had a beautiful night, and we say, well, little angel gave us our weather to go forward, and just to watch the community come together, celebrate kids. Like, I don't know that I've ever seen a kid on a playground in a bad mood. They're joyful, they're happy, and it gives, it's kind of the culmination. All the hard work, all the planning, all the fundraising comes together, and it's just it's so worthwhile. And let me say this: the emergency responder community, right? So whether I would say the fire service in general, pretty much everybody still loves the firefighters, right? With the police officers and the police may have the toughest job in America today, right? So, but to bring those first responders and have them just get away from their, run into tragedy after tragedy, and being there, and just, maybe they're not, they're struggling with a promotional or politics of the job, and they get to come together at a playground build like this. It's therapeutic, it's cathartic for our people. And, by and large, this, you talk to them every day, probably far more firefighters than I do across the country, but they're cut out of the same cloth. They take the job because they want to make a difference. They want to, be there and serve the community, in a very prideful way. And this is an offshoot of that. This is how guys, I don't know what I would be doing as a retired firefighter.
Yeah.
A lot of guys retire and then they take another 40-hour-a-week job, and and then try to fade into a different thing. But this was a natural segue for me to go from doing fire fighting, fire union work, and then to be able to work with the most graceful, beautiful families who are suffering and who need a break. It has been the blessing of my life. So
it's powerful, brother. It's very,
yeah. What else can you say? I hope the guys and girls that listen to you and listen to this will find. I wish for them that they could find something, so rewarding, and it really is. It's not about filling your bank account.
Well, that's
it's about making a difference.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I can't stress that enough, that if you don't have something in your life that is giving you any type of fulfillment, the only way you can be good in life is if you're fulfilled. You have to have something that is pushing you to want to be better or be better. And in organizations, it doesn't have to be a powerful foundation like where Angels play. It can be very simple things, but you need to have fulfillment and find that in your life, because it's the only way you're going to be able to move forward and feel good about yourself is if you have fulfillment. And yeah. I was asking about the ribbon cutting, and I can only imagine the tremendous, underlying of sadness, but the overlying cheer and joy that is occurring at those events, right? And the rushing of children onto the playground when the ribbon's cut, and there's always that sound when you go to a park or a playground, and it's like this underlying sound of children, just lots of kids laughing, crying, playing, talking, and I love that. It's very infectious. It makes any adult themselves, when they're on a playground, feels like a kid also. Right?
Yeah, exactly. We say that all the time. We become kids. We become, tears of joy, but we all become crybabies, and all become kids. And it's watching, that sheer joy. I got a chance to watch my grandkids run on it.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
That was, that's an extra special thing.
Yeah.
But, and to have, the idea is not from us. It's, we talked a lot about where Angels play doing this, but the gift is really from the angel themselves and from the family. And it's about the families who refuse to have their little ones forgotten.
Yes.
Or could be a policeman or a fireman that we build on occasion for, but it's a family who refuses to have the legacy of their loved one be forgotten. And like you said, a number of times, it's a powerful thing. And listen, we're an ever aging workforce. I'm going to be 65 in a couple of days, and we need some young guys. So if there's folks who want to follow us around the country and come and know how to use a screw gun and can lift a wheelbarrow. We love to have you, and it's an ever growing workforce. And these are folks like I'll tell you what. The other thing that people are probably thinking, oh well, what's it cost or what are they making? I have one employee, and that's my daughter. She runs everything. Everybody else is volunteer. The folks that went out to South Dakota, 72 of them, they're on their own dime, traveled, spent a week in a hotel on their own dime, and worked in 105-degree heat to build a playground for our brother and sister Native Americans who they never met. And you think, what? I asked them, I said, you guys could have went to Cancun, you could have went to Europe, you could have taken a vacation. And they said, yeah, but we wouldn't have got this. We wouldn't have got this feeling. And it's wild, to think that there's people who are that selfless, and then they'll tell you like me, well, it's kind of selfish because, I have the best time and I'm with the incredible people. So the folks need to know there's not me, but there's some really wonderful people out there who are doing great
brother,
things.
Don't sell yourself short. You're certainly one of them. And, you're building,
I'm one in training.
Well, you're building playgrounds for angels, but you guys are angels too. And what you do and what you've been able to do for a lot of families and victims of violence or circumstance, you certainly, your foundation, the volunteers, yourself, your family, you guys give so much to that. And that needs to be recognized, Bill. And it's certainly through this conversation today with you, like you said, the word powerful, and this whole conversation's been super powerful. And I think that the message, if anything, today is to get out and find something greater than you and get involved. And I think that matters.
Yep, something that you hit the nail on the head. It's something bigger than yourself. It doesn't have to be playgrounds, but just hey, you're feeling bad about the news you just heard. Let me go help the guy next door or somebody who needs a hand or
I love it.
Like you say, it gives you perspective. So I enjoyed speaking with you and getting our message out. Like 100%. I said, I try not. We're very careful about. You won't see us on advertising or on a billboard or anything like that because our focus is so specific. The fine line between exploiting a tragedy and celebrating the life. And we have. It's very grassroots. It's not. We don't use government money. It's folks that. Help us fundraise. A couple of great corporations. I don't know if I can mention them on this or not. But
go ahead. If you got
I will
people
tell
you
you
want to
that
recognize, please.
If you see them, Jersey Mike's, who they raise on the Day of Giving like $22 million across the way for all sorts of charities, and I'm proud of the name Jersey when associated with them. They're phenomenal. Home Depot, folks, they've been so great to us. Old Castle helps us with cement. We've just had some really wonderful groups. So, if anybody gets a chance to either, patronize those folks, then I'm telling you, they are wonderful corporations and help us change the world, so.
Well, I love it because it can't be done alone. You're going to need partners along the way.
There's the financial piece of it. People
Absolutely.
are probably wondering, where do you get the money from? But again, getting back to the police, the first responders, the police and firefighters, the PBAs and the FMBAs and the internationals of the world are out there doing 5K races or, pub nights and raising funds for the local, and I just, I'm proud of what our first responders are doing across the country in their work, at the firehouse and at the police station. But they do so much beyond that people, really don't necessarily understand. Where in some when the economy turns bad, all of a sudden we're overhead. But these are your coaches. These are your counselors, your teachers, your volunteers at the Little League, and we're proud of our profession, and I think there's a reason why most people really wave with all 5 fingers when they see the fire truck go by.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I will say this. Today was fantastic because I didn't know much about the foundation until today. And in fact, I didn't know about the foundation until it was introduced to me last week by a mutual friend, and then meeting you today and hearing what this is all about. And I am certainly, involved in different charities, and I would love to see what we can do to help you guys along the way. And in that regard, where can people reach out financially if they're looking to donate? If they have maybe a special set of skills or something they can offer, how do they reach out to you, Bill?
Yeah, we have a website. It's whereangelsplayfoundation.org. They go on and they'll be able to see there's a way to comment and to get a hold of us. There's a book that I wrote with my son, where angels live, work, and play, if they wanted more information on that.
Great. Cool.
It really chronicles the beginning of our journey. And we love to share it. And again, I hope we get to the point where we're building playgrounds just to replace older ones, and not necessarily for a tragic circumstance. Let's build them for 95-year-old folks who've lived full, rich, healthy lives. And I guess the final thing I would say, and people, it's not the amount of years that you're on this earth. There's a 15-month-old boy that we just celebrated, and he may, and the children of Sandy Hook and all the other little angels who've only lived a short time on this earth, they may impact more folks through the advocacy of their moms and dads and their gracefulness. They might impact more people than had they lived to be 100 years old. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So those of us who have lived beyond, and, I think it's our responsibility and obligation to maybe try to make things a little bit better for folks, and again, I'm
well said. Yeah, well said.
I'm thrilled to have had this conversation with you. I love the work that you do for the fire service in general. And
listen, man,
we'll follow up with you at some point down the road.
Yeah, for sure. And I would love to see what we could do if you got a local project or something that maybe we can get to be a part of or something. So I'd love to talk to you off the air about all of that. But I think there's a lot that we can help with. And man, what a great and powerful conversation today. Bill Lavin, thank you, brother, for joining me today. Truly appreciate you and your story and the time and the focus that you put into Where Angels Play Foundation. Very powerful, brother. Thank you for being with me today.
No, thanks for having us. I know it's a little bit different spin than the normal.
No, this is perfect.
Truck and engine work, but
this is perfect.
Hopefully, folks will get a kick out of hearing it, and maybe we'll make a difference in somebody's life. But thank you for what you do. Appreciate it.
No problem. Stay right here, Bill. I'm going to sign off the podcast. I'll come right back to you. Okay.
Very good.
Great. Everyone, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the National Fire Radio podcast, whereangelsplayfoundation.org. What a powerful conversation today with my guest, Bill Lavin, retired fire captain out of Elizabeth, New Jersey, who is now running the Where Angels Play Foundation. Check them out. See what they're all about. They are making a difference, providing support for families of tragedies across the country and actually across the globe. So they're making a difference. Get involved, get out in your communities and make a difference, because it does matter. Take this conversation, take it back to the firehouse and talk about it, because when we talk about the job, we're making the job better. We'll see you at the next one. Thanks for tuning in. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
National Fire Radio.